The weekend is coming up. The transfer portal is hot. So let's talk with portal expert here at On3, Pete Nakos. We got big weekends in Tallahassee and Oxford. Also, the latest on top offensive tackle, Zance Herd. What's going on with Bama's portal window? We're going to get all into it. But first, hit subscribe. We got you covered on all the latest portal developments and everything that happens in recruiting. So just do me a favor, hit subscribe. All right, let's bring on Pete Nakos, On3 portal expert. We will, let's start in Oxford, Mississippi. Ole Miss is hosting Yam Banks, Kedrick Blacksher, who's leaving Alabama. Now, they got a couple more, but I want to focus on these two. Let's start with Yam Banks leaving South Alabama. What is Ole Miss's chances, and who are some of the main players here?
You know, Yam Banks had the opportunity probably to go to the NFL draft, but he opted to return to really boost that draft stock, and now he's going to go take that visit at Ole Miss this weekend. I continue to hear that things are trending in the right direction for Ole Miss, and the reason why that's happening is, right, obviously the Tennessee safety Tamari McDonald, who had previously committed to Ole Miss, flipped to Louisville, and the Rebels are definitely in the market to add one, and getting him on campus this weekend is a really big deal.
All right. Now, Kedrick Blacksher, he actually put his name in the portal before the Nick Saban announcement. He is in Oxford this weekend. What's going on?
The direct correlation there, Josh, is obviously his direct recruiter. Alabama was Pete Golding, who's now the defensive coordinator at Ole Miss. I really like where Ole Miss sits right now, getting him on campus so fast. And obviously a really experienced linebacker who will complement well with Chris Paul.
How much more work does Ole Miss have? How much more can they do in the portal? Do you think they're about done? Are they putting on the finishing touches, or do they still have more needs to fill?
You know, they landed their running back Logan Diggs from LSU earlier this week. I kind of thought that was going to be like the bow on top of the class, but now we're seeing a couple really talented defensive players enter, go on a visit this weekend to Oxford. So I think that we're starting to see it kind of stop. But credit to Lane Kiffin and Pete Golding for putting together arguably one of the better transfer portal classes I think we've seen in the last couple of years.
More. Just Lane says, give me more. Speaking of more, FSU, they are starting to heat up in the portal. Just from Alabama, Malik Benson, wide receiver, Terrence Ferguson, offensive lineman, cornerback, Earl Little Jr., all from Alabama. They also added a couple more pieces. You guys can go to War Chant, check all that out. But FSU giving new meaning to Built by Bama here, because this weekend they have another Alabama prospect on campus, running back Roydell Williams, also offensive lineman Richie Leonard. We'll start with him. He is transferring from UF. Has he taken any other trips?
From my understanding, he has not taken any other trips yet, and he will be at Florida State this weekend. Obviously, an experienced offensive lineman, and Florida State's really emphasized the line of scrimmage in the transfer portal, obviously adding Terrence Ferguson already.
Yeah, and I think Richie Leonard could be a one and done. I know Alex Atkins had a great relationship with him. He actually chose Florida over Florida State in his recruitment, so this could be a little get back. I don't know. We'll see. Richie Leonard has 1 year left?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, I think so. All right, Roydell Williams, he's leaving Alabama as well. What's the latest on him? Are there any? Does Florida State have any other competition right now?
You know, we all kind of thought that Ole Miss was going to be in the mix for Roydell, but they obviously took Logan Diggs. I think Roydell's really intriguing to Florida State. They took the Indiana running back and return specialist Jalen Lucas earlier this week.
Yeah.
But Trey Benson's headed the NFL, and Trey Benson did a lot in that backfield the last couple of years. And I think adding someone like Roydell, who was a top 10 running back, I believe, coming out of high school, obviously a lot of talent, got a lot of reps at Alabama, kind of had to fight through some injuries, but putting him back there with Jalen Lucas would definitely be a 1-2 punch that I think the Seminoles need entering 2024.
Yeah, and do you think both? I mean, does it look like Florida State could possibly close on both of these guys this weekend? What are you hearing?
I personally see that both of these have a strong shot of being one and dones. Now, obviously not a done deal, but I think getting them on campus this weekend, and I think Florida State has a really good shot of making this a one and done weekend.
All right. Well, Zance Herd, the top offensive tackle in the portal, he is not a one and done because he's already taken visits to Tennessee and Oklahoma. Is he going to make a decision, or is he going to take more visits? What's going on with Zance Herd?
It's been really quiet with Zance Herd.
Hmm.
I've actually tried to call him and his mother a few times, been kind of hard to get a hold of. Went to Tennessee and Oklahoma last weekend, and there's a thought in the Oklahoma camp that a decision was going to come shortly after. That has not happened. Um, Both schools really need Zance Herd too, right? Percy Lewis recently committed to Auburn. Diego Pounds is at Ole Miss. Um,
Hmm.
Ole Miss was in the mix, but I think that once they landed Diego and really understood how talented he is and don't want to lose him, I think that they kind of took themselves out of the Zane Herd mix.
All right, so we'll see what happens there, but that is the biggest domino still left to fall, at least where offensive tackles go. When is wide receiver from Liberty, CJ Daniels, expected to decide? Because we thought it was going to come down to Texas, Florida, and Auburn. He took those 3 visits in kind of a cluster, but then LSU gets a visit. So what's going on with his recruitment, and is Liberty still a possibility?
I reported, I believe it was earlier this week, that I thought Liberty still had a shot because Caden Salter returned to campus. I continue to hear that Liberty is obviously in the conversation. I wouldn't say it's like an extremely high percentage that it's going to happen. But I think the really interesting thing to mention here is obviously he's going to LSU this weekend. Texas has been thought to be the leader going into this weekend. Both LSU and Texas both start their spring semester this coming week. So obviously both are still very viable and on the table, but I'd expect one of those two to be in the mix when he makes the decision, which would I imagine have to happen soon with classes starting up.
Yeah, his recruitment's kind of drawn out a little bit. All right, last thing I want to talk to you about is something that you reported a couple days ago, and that is Alabama athletes. They will be able to transfer in conference, and you reported there is a 30-day window for Bama players to enter the portal. Now, I believe we're 3 or 4 days into this window. What are you hearing? Are you expecting portal names to start dropping?
Today is day 2
Oh,
because
today's
they
only
don't
day 2.
count that one day when like the news comes.
Feels like it's been a week since Saban
It,
announced his retirement.
it has. It has. I think there's a couple things to mention here. Is obviously a lot of top programs across the country have already started classes. Classes started in Tuscaloosa on Wednesday. And while that all might sound boring, it has a lot to do with when an athlete can transfer and get on campus and if they can be on campus at a school for spring ball. But yeah, I think from my understanding, right, we've heard this reported from a few places is that Greg Byrne and Nick Saban kind of told the athletes that a head coach would be installed in roughly 72 hours or so. And I think a lot of athletes are just kind of waiting to see what decision is going to be made at Alabama.
Geez, so we could almost have like a second coming of the transfer portal just with Alabama players if things don't go the way that they want to. Well, that'll be something to watch this weekend. There's a lot going on this weekend. Pete Nakos, thanks for dropping by the inside scoop and breaking it all down for us.
Thanks so much for having me, Josh.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.